Okay, I got my finger on the microphone. We okay?
We had no sound. Okay, we're good.
We had no
We
sound.
had no sound.
At the beginning?
Yes.
Well, okay, well, let's reset it. Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and today we have Stay Star Curious with you today as we're going to talk about what's in the night sky this week. Got one significant event, and we've got a star up in the night sky that was used to open the 1933 um, World's Fair. And I'm saying hi to Selvin Trotter over there, who's manning the board as Marty Winkle's on vacation. Everything okay over there, Selvin?
Yep.
Okay.
It was lagging, but it looks like it's caught up and everyone can hear you now.
All right. Well, we want everyone to know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why we repeated ourselves there for those of you that didn't hear me. But yes, we going to try every Mondays to do a skies this week with astronomy and stick to that. I can record those sessions and give me a day off once in a while. But today we're going to talk about uh, a couple things, but like I said, very interesting. Almost 100 years ago, where a star was used to open up the World's Fair in Chicago in 1933, and it's a cool little story that you're going to want to stick around and see. As I'm looking at Dave Stange there in Michigan, and there's Doug Forrest over there in California, and there's Carlton Bailey up there in a tree in Cape Canaveral Groves there up there. So I hope everybody looks at some of our archives. We got some great guests on there, and last week we had on Daniel DeYoung, a jet pilot for Spirit Airlines, and his wife is from the Ukraine, and he took us into the bowels of Russia where he paid to be a cosmonaut for a day and suited up in a spacesuit and did a simulated spacewalk and was inside a Soyuz spacecraft. And he'll never do that again because his wife from the Ukraine, this war with Russia has dissolved all those relationships forever with them. But well, let's kick it off here because what you're going to see in this, let's talk about this background here. This is a photograph I took few years ago. Yep, we have a full moon on Tuesday. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the correct way to photograph the full moon. I am a professional photographer, and when you can see the Maria there as clear as day, then you have balanced the landscape with the lunar Maria there to actually looks like the moon and not a flashlight or something overblown on your exposure there. But Selvin sunrises, which I don't see too many of, are around 6:10 a.m. starting this week, and sunset is around 7:47. Now, each day of the week, we're going to add a minute to the sunrise is going to get a minute earlier, and the sunset's going to get a minute later. So we're almost gaining 2 minutes a day in daylight, and we'll do that until the 1st of June. Monday, tonight, if you have clear skies, Jupiter is going to be the bright star on the horizon in the west. That's where the sun sets. And you're going to see Jupiter, the brightest object in the sky up there. And to its right, with a pair of binoculars, you'll probably see a little faint smudge. And that is a comet called Comet Pons-Brooks, and nicknamed the Devil Comet. And here is a fabulous photo of it taken by an amateur astronomer just a few days ago. Let's look at that nice and big there. Whoop, let's go back there. There we go. Getting used to my buttons here after a weekend off. Comets, of course, are basically a interstellar iceberg that has a lot of things that can create life in them, amino acids, all kinds of carbons and so forth. And as they come close to the sun, the tail is blown away by the heat. And then when it loops around the sun, like Pons-Brooks is going to do in the next week, then when it comes on the other side of the sun, it won't be seen anymore in the northern hemisphere, but the southern hemisphere is probably going to get a spectacular naked eye view of it. The comet tail will be ahead of it as it goes away from the sun, back out in the environs, way past Neptune and Pluto, where this comet orbits the solar system's sun every 71 years. So this comet has been well known, but when it was captured about in the summertime by big telescopes, it looked like it had some horns on it. So it was nicknamed the Devil's Comet. Now, every year we have 3 or 4 comets that are potentially visible to the naked eye, and usually they don't pan out. Comets are very temperamental. They feared people when they saw them across the sky. The ancient peoples would think that was a sign of evil, a sign of a king, hierarchy or something about to change. When you see something sudden change in the sky that they don't know about, it is translated into some sort of event for humankind. And indeed, comets in Latin mean hairy star is what they're translated to. So you're not going to see comet Pons like this, but go out and look near Jupiter the next couple nights. It'll be there. I'm going to try to photograph it if we get a clear horizon. But you can look at a lot of websites like spaceweather.com, and they have a whole gallery of photos around the world where I harvested this one. Oh yeah, okay. I thought I had another picture there, but that's not going to show up, so that's all right. Look for a circular wispy patch of light with a possible faint tail that stretches up in the left of the bright area and that surrounds the comet's bright area when you look at Jupiter tonight. Now, also tonight is the Lyrid meteor shower. Meteor showers are periodic streams of debris that the Earth plows through, okay, in our 365-day orbit. There are dozens of little streams that have debris in them from comets and asteroids. And the Lyrid meteor shower is usually a reliable one, but because the moon is close to full, you're not going to see many meteors. If you get up at 4 o'clock tomorrow morning, you early risers before dawn, which I said sun rises at 6:10 a.m. So if you get up around 4 to 5 before twilight sets in, You might see a few bright meteors. They usually leave a smoky trail called a train, astronomers call that. That is really cool to see. You see Selvin, you see the bright streak, and then right behind is like a neon tube of light that flashes and disappears. Those are called smoky meteor trails. So the Lyrid meteor showers, and we'll be updating you with more meteor showers this year. Of course, the two famous ones, of course, the most famous, the Perseid in August, and then the one of the most outstanding ones that nobody ever watches is the quadrants, and that's the week before Christmas. Well, I tried to get you to talk like an astronomer once in a while, and here is how to talk like an astronomer. You talk like how many days old is the moon? So the moon today is 13 days old, Selvin. So that means that the full moon is the 14th day. Once again, the moon takes 29 and a half days to go around the Earth, all right? It is going 1,000 miles an hour faster than we rotate, so it makes a lap around the Earth every 29 days. But to find it in the same place phase to phase is about 28 days, and 14 days is full moon there, where 7 days is first quarter, 21 days is last quarter. Everyone sees that 21-day-old moon, Selvin. A lot of you do. It'll be in a week from this week where you'll be driving into work and look to the south, and there's the moon up there in the beautiful blue sky about 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's the way it looks, the 21-day-old moon there. So full moon is at 7:49 tomorrow, Eastern Daylight Time. Coincidentally, moonrise, okay? And there is that's a MarQ moonrise over the Amish country of Pennsylvania there. And it is the full moon of April, which this is still the month of April, is technically called the pink moon. And it can be pink because of the atmosphere that is turning it pink here in MarQ's photograph. The refraction of light as you're looking through 250 miles of atmosphere, although straight overhead you're only looking through about 50 miles of atmosphere. That's one reason the Native Americans called it pink, or the flower moon, although May is usually the flower moon. But it's also called the pink moon because of the pink phlox, those beautiful little flowers that carpet landscape like a carpet. They were prevalent across America in a lot of the Midwest. And I enjoy seeing the phlox in Tennessee, up there in the mountains, in the Tri-Cities of Johnson City, Tennessee. Very pretty up there. So Native Americans gave the moon names so that just to relate to what was going on in their environment. And so it's a good opportunity to photograph the moon against landscapes and get that moon illusion where the moon looks so gigantic that you couldn't cover it with a beach ball, but you can always cover it with your little finger. It never changes in size. You can hold out your little finger and cover up the moon 1/2 degree across all day long, which means 180 moons stacked from overhead to each horizon makes 360 moons would span our sky from horizon to the zenith at the top. Incredible to think about that when the moon looks so big in our eyes this week. Here's a picture that Dave Stange took with his wife Julie of the full moon over their Hawaiian resort when they sent this to me on a vacation a way back. So great to see you, Dave and Julie, down here for Shuttle Fest, and thank you for supporting us. So you'll get a lot of good photos. Go out and catch some moonshine this weekend. It's the kind of moonshine you can't get too much of. So, well, what we're going to talk about today is then there's my picture of the moon taken down here. Obviously, we're going to talk today about the Big Dipper. There you see the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. That's over my sister Sherry's house in my brother-in-law Jerry Matthews in San Angelo, Texas. And just as the Big Dipper arc of the handle is pointing down to those street lights there at the bottom, coincidentally, you see the blue and the red orange light there. this sort of mimics what the Big Dipper does to two bright stars that you will see in the east tonight when it gets dark, and then for the rest of the summertime. So the Big Dipper's now almost standing on its end. As it moves, of course, it is pointing to the Little Dipper. The Little Dipper and Big Dipper pouring into each other. You'll see that in a minute. And as time goes, the Big Dipper keeps moving around like that. So during the winter, it is scraping it looks like a ladle scraping the bottom of the horizon there. So there's the outline of Ursa Major and the bear form over it. Love talking about Ursa Major, the big bear. That's what Ursa is, bear in Latin, and major, of course, big. And so you got the Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. The asterism, the whole constellation looks like that when you outline all the stars, and there's a lot of faint stars. In fact, the bottom stars of his feet are called the Leap of the Gazelle. And those will be real prominent here as the Big Dipper keeps moving, and as the hours go on, or you see it every day, it's tilted up a little bit more. In about a month, it'll be right across with its dipper pouring down onto the horizon. And but you see, it's a gigantic constellation, one of the largest in the sky, with a lot of faint stars. However, the hindquarters of it is what's best known as the Big Dipper. That is what we call not a constellation, but an asterism. There's 88 constellations and a handful of asterisms. The Southern Cross is one, the Northern Cross. The Pentagon of Winter is another. About 8 stars make up a pentagon there, brightest stars of the winter sky. So, but something, Selvin, that I like sharing with people is that in all history of Earth, there has never been found a skeleton or a living bear that has a long tail. They all have short tails, all right? Stubby little short tails. You've never seen a bear with a long tail, except in this mythological creature that is iconicized in the sky. So think about that. The story about the bears on Earth is that Zeus flung the bear up into the sky and jerked its tail off. All right. And jerked it. As he did that, I don't know how he kept his tail in the sky, but supposedly the bears on the Earth lost their tails. So, you know, that is a part of astronomy that I encourage anyone to get involved in. You don't have to even go out and look at the stars and be involved in astronomy. Those are called cosmologists that try to understand how all this came together. But mythology is just so beautiful. And those of you that love the mythological Greek and Roman tales, they're all up in the sky. The Romans stole the Greek stories and adopted them on. That's why you got the Roman Mars instead of the Greek Ares, which is the Greek name for the red planet Mars, and the god of war. So, and we'll talk more about that as we stay star curious with Backyard Astronomy here on our program. So what is great about the Big Dipper is that it can be used to point to all kinds of other objects, used as a guidepost, we call it, in the sky. And here is one of the most typical first things I learned. I bet I'm a 9-year-old boy, and I learned this from a book by Herbert Zim. One of those books I got in the library, and then later it's in one of my cherished books in my own personal library. There's your Big Dipper handle, and you arc that handle, and you arc to a bright star called Arcturus. Arc to Arcturus, all right? And Arcturus is a very interesting star that we're going to talk about here in a moment. It is the 4th brightest star in the entire sky. And let's see, where am I going here? Oh, okay, I lost my notes on Arcturus here. Didn't want to, yeah, there's Arcturus, all right. As if I need notes to talk about astronomy very much. There is Arcturus, okay. We arc to Arcturus, and there is the mythological creature of Arcturus. he was known as the bear herder. So there he's got a scythe in his hand because he's out there in the fields, maybe plowing down some wheat. He's got a staff in the other hand because he's a bear herder. He's herding the big and little bear around the sky and following them around closely behind there. There above his knee is where the bright star Arcturus is. This doesn't look anything like it looks like in the sky. That's just an artist's rendition of it. Here is what Arcturus looks like. And I'm sorry, I was calling the constellation Arcturus. That constellation that the star's in is actually called Bootes, Bootes, all right, the bear herder, all right. And Bootes, I never heard a person named Bootes. There's a lot of interesting names, to put it mildly, out there, Selvin, but I've never heard of anyone called Bootes. Make a good name for a cat, maybe, or a dog, or a person, but there was actually a person called Bootes. He had to be something famous in the annals of history to be up there in the sky. But and it's an ancient constellation too. This constellation has been around for thousands of years under the name of bear herder, Bootes. Well, there's what its stars look like. It looks like a kite or an ice cream cone. And it's easy to see that on a moonlit night. A moonless night. I mean, on a moonlit night, you know, most of these stars are going to be washed out a little bit. And we're going to talk about and have before the brightness of stars and their magnitude. But this is Bootes. There's Arcturus. There at the bottom, it looks like a kite, and it's just really a cool constellation to follow and watch. Arcturus is the fourth brightest star in the sky at 0 magnitude. It's a red giant, 27 times the size of the sun, and very close to us. It's just 36 light years away. That plays into our little story about the Chicago World's Fair we're going to talk about, because light from Arcturus triggered the photoelectric switch that turned on a new invention, streetlights, at the Chicago World's Fair in 1933. Well, why did they choose Arcturus? Well, I'll tell you that in a minute. Very orange-red star. There you have again the constellation of Ursa Major that pours into the Little Dipper. Of course, the outside pointer stars, Dubhe and Merak, point to Polaris, the North Star. I was pointing Polaris out to some hoteliers on Cape Canaveral at the Beachside Hotel doing an outreach Friday, and everyone's always amazed that Polaris is so faint. It's only a second magnitude star. About all of the Ursa Major Big Dipper stars are about second magnitude. And then I said Arcturus is 0 magnitude, the fourth brightest in the sky. The lower the number, the brighter an object is. And you can use the Big Dipper there with your hand to figure out distances. We're all the time talking about the moon is 20 degrees away from the planet Jupiter tonight. Well, how far is that? Well, your hand spread out is 25 degrees from thumb to pinky there. And a fist is 10 degrees, all right? And the Big Dipper between the two stars is 3 fingers, and that's 5 degrees. And then one finger at fully outstretched arm is about a half a degree. So these are handy measurements. That 10-degree one with the fist is real handy to learn. That's the width of the Big Dipper. Talking about Arcturus, it is a gigantic red star, a red dwarf star that's exhausted a lot of its energy and keeps expanding. One day it's going to blow up. There's our sun in comparison, and the planet Jupiter on the far left. Sirius is the brightest star right now in the sky in the southwest at sunset. That's easy to see. Pollux is one of the stars of Gemini, the twins. It's also in the east and setting. We're losing the constellations of the winter, and next week we're going to talk about the constellations of spring. Well, let's get to the Chicago World's Fair, because I know you're just chomping at the bit to figure out what am I talking about. Well, the Chicago World's Fair in 1933 was on the heels of the Great Depression, and people were still mired in the malaise of that great tragedy. And they came to the fair to glimpse a happy, not too distant future, all driven by science and innovation. So this was a century of progress from 1833 to 1933 was the billing of Chicago World's Fair. The exposition emphasized technology, progress, a utopia or a perfect world founded on a democracy and manufacturing. Now, at the time, they thought that the star Arcturus was 40 light years away. 40 years earlier, in 1933, in 1893, Chicago held the first World's Fair called the World's Columbian Exposition. All right. And so they thought that they would choose Arcturus because it was 40 light years away, they thought. So its light would arrive in Chicago just in time to open up the next World's Fair, so to speak. Arcturus was not only the right distance, but bright and easy to see during May at the fair's opening. Could a more perfect marriage of scientific poetry and ever be arranged? Well, this is just 100 years ago almost. Here we are, exactly 89 years ago to be exact, and or 81 years, 91 years ago. And at the time, the photoelectric cell, was a device that provided electric current when exposed to light. It was all the rage 100 years ago. Clever entrepreneurs had figured out how to take advantage of light's ability to knock electrons loose from atoms, to open doors and count shoppers automatically as they went in. And photoelectric cells are still widely used today, from burglar alarms to toilets that magically flush when you step away. So they chose four universities. Yerkes University, the famous one in Chicago, was picked for the job that they were going to take the light through a telescope of Arcturus and put it on a photoelectric cell, and that was going to light up the opening of the World's Fair. Well, to make sure that cloudy skies didn't prohibit this from happening, the University of Illinois in Urbana, Harvard College University in Massachusetts, and Allegheny Observatory in Pittsburgh all participated in this grand event. And here is the big sign that they had there. The light of Arcturus, 1893, left in 1893, and 40 years later was in 1933 opening up this World's Fair. Now you see Western Union up there, because how was Allegheny Observatory in Pittsburgh and Harvard and the one in Urbana going to help? They were going to focus their light on respective photocells, Arcturus's light on photoelectric cells, and then send the current via Western Union telegraph lines to the Chicago Fair. So they were going to send that electricity hundreds of miles if it was cloudy. But it wasn't, but all four observatories participated in it, and people were flabbergasted. They were just blown away by the whole thing. They loved it. And it was such a big event. Here you see some of the outlay of it. There's the sign that we showed you on the left. This is the star of that night before it got dark at 9:15 is when they focused Arcturus's light on the photoelectric cell and lit up this entire Chicago World's Fair like no place has ever been lit up before. So quite a throng of people there to see this. And so that was a huge event. And when you see arc to Arcturus, take the arc of the Big Dipper, arc to Arcturus, and then we're going to do something else. We're going to speed on to Spica. All right, that was a picture of the comet that I have out of sequence there that somebody took about a month ago. So let's go this way there. Now, so there is the constellation Spica in Virgo the Virgin, okay? Virgo the Virgin, and A couple of these got out of sequence there, Selvin. Don't know why, but we'll just carry on here. All right, I want to go this way. You Ursa Major, there, you arc to Arcturus, all right, and then spike to Spica, speed on to Spica, all right, and there you see Spica is the scales. Now let me go. Spica is another interesting star. Every star up there is like people. They're all different, all right. Spica is actually two stars, Spica A and Spica B. Spica B orbits Spica every 4 days, all right. Now, Spica is another large star, larger than our sun, obviously seen in this graphic. It's 260 light years away, all right. So if it was where Arcturus was, it would cast a shadow at night. It'd be so close and so bright. But it's 260 light years away. The light that left there left, in the 1800s and is hitting our eyeballs today. And there's the scene there. I wanted to show you Arcturus. Virgo, the Virgin, is one of the largest constellations, second largest. Despite being large, its stars are faint and hard to define the shape of a lady laying in repose. And Spica, which means ear of wheat in Arabic. It's an Arabic named star. Is first magnitude, a little less bright, just one. It's 2.5 times dimmer than 0 magnitude Arcturus. And the difference between first magnitude and 0 is a 2.5 logarithmic scale. All right, so, all right, we got some pictures jumbled up there, but that's okay. We're dealing with it here. There's the, again, the axiom that I learned as a kid. Arc the handle of the Big Dipper to Arcturus and speed on to Spica. And there you've got the kite, or the Boötes, which is the ice cream cone. And you can roughly make a big square out of the stars of Virgo there. So there you go, Selvin, the beautiful star of Spica through a telescope. That's what it looks like. That's not the surface of it that we're seeing, the round ball. That's the overexposure of it as accumulated. Stars just look like points of light unless you got the Hubble telescope or the Webb telescope, which is going to show us surface of stars. And there's Arcturus, beautiful, beautiful orange-red light that was used for the 1933 World's Fair. So hope everybody stays star curious this week and gets themselves a little moonshine as they look at the full moon. Great opportunity for photographs as you see the moon illusion. It looks so huge and big next to this palm tree or building or whatever, but I guarantee you your arm stretched out can always cover it up. Well, on this one, I need my big head to cover it up. But so, Selvin, thank you for a good job today. We'll crank it up tomorrow and do it again. So thank you, everybody, for watching. And until next time, I'm Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in our museum to bridge the space between us. So let me get back out to doing some stargazing. All right.